Welcome to the Biological Channel. This is the channel owner and host, Kent Kruger. And I'm going to try to do this at night, although I can see the glare problem is going to be as bad during the day. Now I want to start off with this photograph because a certain number of people at a certain chat line keep calling me a liar, etc. People who spent their entire life on SSI, bunch of mental cases and stuff. These are some of the people that I've been studying as part of the black supremacy movement. They're the most toxic people I've ever met. They're almost exclusively Yankees. And they keep saying that everything that I say is a lie, and they don't understand them. This part of this is a two-pronged. Two reasons for the making of this video is first to let all of you who watch know that I'm a real person. And I'm going to show you pictures proving that I'm not just some old man who popped up out of nowhere. You can tell by looking at me that that's me. You can see by the shape of my body and the shape of my skull, that's me. And this is also, I'm going to start with this picture and stuff like that. When I should mention that a lunatic arsoned my home. I know who she is. We all know who she is, and destroyed at least 300,000 of my photos. Now, if I sound a little bit tired here now, a little bit disoriented, it's because I've spent hours removing these photos from frames. I only had 4 boxes of stuff in storage that survived that arson. This is a picture of me when I was 30 years old, been married for about a year. I'm mugging for my wife, Denise. And for all those people that say I'm not in the oil and gas business and so on, first of all, let me point out here, for those of you who've watched my other videos, which these people are some of the most, they watch my videos and stuff. They're trying to, and I'm going to show you here in a minute, one of the things they keep harping on is the color of my fingers, which actually under this light they come out closer. Under daylight they turn, oh, I didn't clean my nails after doing all that digging around in this. They look yellow in normal light, like I've been chain smoking excessively. But you're looking at a man that's 6.5 feet tall, 280 pounds, 30 years old. If you look in the background there, that is 3 large oil storage tank, and that thing right there is what we call a pump jack. We'd already finished free flow and went to a pump jack. That was my first oil well drilled in 1980. And this is me at 30, and I think you wouldn't really want to, would you really want to meet this man, be an enemy of this man, meet this man in a dark alley or in some place where nobody could see what's happening? I don't think you want to. And some of you are going to complain, like my brother who was a Dianabol steroid freak. You notice that my arms are not over large, but you notice how muscular they are. That gives me speed. Those guys with those big fat steroid arms, my arms can literally move at twice the speed of them. I can tell this is going to go into a full 45 minutes, 3 segments. I should have tried to do this as live streaming, but I don't want to take that chance. I'll just keep on filming. I don't have my picture of my first grade class, which, by the way, I completed that first grade when I was 5 years old, and I think I don't have a picture of it is mainly because the teacher, Mrs. Metzger, got pregnant, and that's me right there. And if you can't tell, that's actually blonde hair. In those days, we were forced to put this stuff called butch wax in our hair, which darkened our hair. I'm a blonde. Actually, those kids are blonde and stuff like that. This kid right here was the lightest head. He was a real cotton head, but he later turned out to be a coke addict and a crackhead and everything else. And there's the beautiful Polly Allen, which they moved Polly in the 2nd grade into me. This is the A class. We always used to track A and B. And she was the most beautiful little creature I'd ever seen, but she never really talked to anybody. Really never did, and always wondered why her family who really didn't even live in my school district center to be in a class with me when they owned their own private academy called Allen's Academy. Sure, it was a boys' military academy, but she was, I'm quite sure, tutored at home for the first year. But to go on some more, that's the first grade. And this girl over here, Pamela Buck, that girl had a crush on me for like forever. But I'll go back, and that's what I looked like when I was a young boy. That's a handsome young boy. I'm kind of squinting my eyes a bit because the sunlight, I've always been super sensitive to sun. I can see that I'm kind of scrunching up but in no way would you call me an ugly kid, nor would you dare call me an ugly adult. I used to get more poon than any of you losers at the Boston Loach. And here's the next 4 years. Here's grade, that would be grade 3, Mrs. Stout, Annie Frank Stout. Grade 4, Mrs. Little. Yeah, that's me right there. Always a tall kid standing in the back. And all these other kids, like I should have mentioned, they're all a year or two older than me, at least a year or two older than me. Why? Because I'm smarter than them. I'm going to take my time with this. And this guy right here, Mr. Adams, this guy was only about 300 yards down the hill when Ira Hamilton Hayes and the rest put up the flag on Iwo Jima. The guy was no pussy. As a matter of fact, I'm going to take some time here and tell a story about friendship and doing the right thing. Now, this kid here, let me find the little bastard. See, that's Bruce Shockley, Eddie Webb. Where's Davis? And I'm having trouble locating him. There he is right there. The little criminal. Now dead since age 42. After I wrote him a letter telling him to eat shit and die. Kenneth Earl Davis. There's the thief. And you know what? I can tell this is going to go into 3 or 4 segments. But and I used to go to lunch. I had a job. You know, by the time I was in 2nd grade, I had a full-time job working for my brother and 2 other part-time jobs. So one day, and I used to go to lunch wherever I want to. I used to go down to Mike's grocery store, Mike Ruffino and stuff, and I'd eat pecan pies and drink sodas and read comic books and stuff for lunch, and this kid would tag along. But whereas I would pay cash, he would run it up on his family's bill and get his ass beat. One day I noticed he finally paid. He had a 50-cent piece, and I'm not going to take the time to find the girl Eva Werbs in here. But after class, Mr. Adams said, all the boys stay behind. All the boys stayed behind. And he told the story about the missing 50-cent piece, and we all sat there quietly. And I gave this asshole, my friend, Kenneth Earl Davis, I gave him a full hour to do the right thing and fess up and take his punishment. And after one hour, I waited until it was 4 o'clock, and I said, Mr. Adams, he had a silver 50-cent piece, and this was when they were still all silver, at lunchtime. And that was all Mr. Adams needed, and he dismissed the rest of the boys because this asshole here didn't do the right thing and confess his crime. And he expected us all to be punished for his crime. I was so intelligent and so well liked by the staff. And that's Mrs. Powell. Her son was killed in Vietnam. If you go down, if you notice, I'm still the tallest kid in the middle there. Right there. This is 6th grade. And when her son was killed in Vietnam, I was the one that was sent to carry, what do you call it, like a card signed by all the kids and stuff like that. And actually, I even came up to the back door of her house instead of her front door. I knew where she lived in my neighborhood. And I handed her the card, and I said, "We're very sorry, Mrs. Powell." And that woman locked on to me for it felt like 20 minutes. She just cried and boo-hooed and wouldn't let go of me. And I'll tell you what, that's a brutal assignment for a young man. But I was a young man by then. I was a famous young man because I'd already boxed on television, and I was about to begin appearing in national, etc. I have enough time here. Let me go ahead and jump ahead. I'm going to kind of skip the junior high stuff because I only went to junior high a couple of years in Texas because they used to have 3-year, or no, they had 2-year junior highs here, and then I did my freshman year in California. And forgive me about the water damage on this. But this was in a frame, and this is actually the first time that I appeared in Sports Illustrated. This is the famous people page where you see names like Wilt Chamberlain, and I think you get down there's Pete Rose, and there's old Wilt the Stilt down there enjoying some water and stuff. And here it goes right here, and this is all a lie. I'm going to spend some time here. Actually, my brother Charlie, right there, Charlie Kruger, Beverly Kruger, I'm about to come up. Charlie actually called a sports columnist one day. This story, he said, boy, you got to learn to toot your own horn, which is drum up your own media. He was trying to teach me how it's done. He called up his buddy who was always dying for a call from some sports player, some professional player for any little tidbit. And actually, this story did not originate with Sports Illustrated. It originated with I think it was Rosenblum or whatever at San Francisco Chronicle or something like that. And this story is a lie. This is typical about how you get fake stories and stuff. I'm going to read the whole thing. I'm at 12 minutes on this. And it says, always thought Charlie could eat, says Beverly Kruger of her husband, Charlie Kruger, the 49ers defensive tackle. I'm sorry, there's some water damage on there. Defensive tackle. But that was before his brothers came to visit. Charlie is 6'4" and weighs 255. No, actually he weighs about 270 pounds because he's on off season. He's fat as a hog. His younger brother Rolf, and that's how bad my brother's name is Rolf, not Rolfin, is 6'5" and weighs 245. No, he weighs about 260 or so. Baby brother Kent it's actually 6'3.5" is what they listed. By the time this was printed, I was already over 6'4", but he weighs 265 pounds. When Kent came to visit, Beverly cooked 20 eggs for breakfast, of which she had 2. The original thing said she had 1, Charlie had 2, and I ate the rest. See, that's how much it gets perverted when journalists get a hold of things, because I still have the original somewhere. It says, when Kent came to visit, Beverly cooked 20 eggs for breakfast, of which she had 2, Charlie had 3, and Kent had 15. They also said I ate a pound of bacon and a loaf of toast in the original article. Well, Kent is only Kent is a growing boy. He is only 13. In fact, by the time this was published, I was actually already 14, but I still have to say 13. But that was my first appearance in Sports Illustrated. We'll get to the other ones later, but just for the heck of it, I thought I'd show this up here because when I started out in life, I was a handsome little kid right there. I was a handsome little boy with a German last name. Blonde-haired, blue-eyed kid with a German last name. Who would guess that I'm actually Jewish? And so actually, when I was living with my brother, I went ahead and got one of these. This is the original and gives me all sorts of legal powers. And in no way it contradicts my stance as a Jew. It's the universally accept all, etc. But you can see my full name there, Thomas Kent Kruger, 14 Phyllis Court. They left out Belmont, California. Belmont, May 16th, 1969. You can see that they repeated that. It's now almost, I'll have to sign off on this, but it's now 15 minutes and get ready for part 2.